Yeah, I did the next race after that, but I like went to the bathroom too late, and when I came out, they had already staged it, and they had the juniors racing with starting with the beginners, so it was this huge pack. So I had to start the race at the very back of the pack, and it was a really short race. And you go up this dirt road a little bit, and then it turns into like paved road. So I had to like fight my way through all these beginners. And I got myself through most of them, but then I got stuck by in a couple of them on the single track on the climb, and then I passed them on the downhill. And then I finally caught up to the dude who's in first place, Ben Marshall. And I caught up to him like a little bit like on the climb on the dirt road, and he looks back at me, and I'm like, "What's up?" He's like, so then I was riding with him, but by then I'd kind of burnt myself out catching up to him. So he like dropped me before the single track and then rode away from me on the single track. He was gone. I was like, fuck, man, I missed my chance. But then I went down, and like I was riding down, and like I made a wrong turn. Some dude was like, no, not here. And I was like, what? And I like, he jumped out of the way, and I zoomed through, and I made like a shortcut on accident. And so then like I had caught up to Ben Marshall again, and he was in front of me. And then I zoomed by him like he was standing still on like the last corner right before the finish, and I won that race. But that was like the last race I ever did. I think it was the last race I ever did. It was either that one. Yeah, that was the last race I ever did. Last mountain bike race. And because I didn't really have a good year that year, and then my dad encouraged me not to race anymore because it was too expensive. My dad insisted on driving me to all the races, which made it more expensive, and so he was just like, don't race next year, dude. And I was like, all right, whatever, okay. So the next year I didn't race. But yeah, I wasn't very good. I felt like I had really bad luck. Like I was always getting mechanicals every time I showed up at a race, like a pulley would fall out or I would crack something. I cracked a frame in a race. That was in Crested Butte race. Crested Butte was a really big race. We went up there, and my dad drove me out. I was 15, so this was like 90. And we started in this huge pack, and Luke Miller was there. He was this kid I'd been racing like the Red Singer with from a while, and we were like hanging out. And we rode, and there was this huge pack, and then it funneled into this single track, and my chain fell off, so I had to like put it back on, and then we were riding, and then we got to this climb, and there was this girl named like Elodie Brown who was only like a year older than me, and she was like a top expert racer. I think she turned into pro after that, but she was like right in front of me, but she like rode away from me. She dropped me on the climb, so I got beat by a girl. And then the next race. But I was in the lead for junior because that kid Ben Allen was actually ahead of me. But then I saw him on the climb like barely moving. He like bonked or something. And then the next race was this like just like this criterium around Crested Butte on dirt roads and stuff. And like that kid Ben Allen was like blew me away. He like dropped me. I ended up winning that overall anyway because I beat him by a lot the day before. But I was like, what the hell is wrong with my bike? I'm barely moving. It's totally squishy. What the fuck? Like, and I looked at my tires, and it didn't look like there was no air in my tires. And I finished the race, and I was like, what the hell? And then I look at my bike, and the frame was cracked. Totally cracked on the diagonal tube thing coming up. So I was lucky that the top frame didn't crack, or I would have had a spill and like done a faceplant. Gotten one of these. But yeah, I won a helmet on that one. But anyways, yeah, I did what other races did I do? We did Winter Park, Frisco. There was this Frisco race which was crap. Those idiots, the directors didn't know what the fuck they were doing. Like I won that race. I should have won that race. But I didn't. I thought the finish line was the start line because they had no direction of where it was. And when I finally went to the finish line, the other kid had already finished, and so I ended up getting third to my brother. That pissed me off. And then the year before that, I won it, but I got disqualified because I crossed the finish line from the wrong direction. So they fucking disqualified me for that. So that the son of the race director ended up winning. So after that, I was like, fuck these guys. I actually yelled at the guy, and I was like, you morons. And he like yelled back at me, and I was like, fuck you. And I think they canceled it after that because there was this big backlash against them. Like all the racers like rebelled against it. Um, but yeah. But what else? We did the Breckenridge every year because that's where our trailer was. We did Durango. I did really bad at Durango though. I crashed on that one once. Oh, we did this Colorado Springs. I got second on that one. I beat Ben Allen because I dropped him on the downhill before the final like dirt road that went up. This kid named Paul something or other won. I was hanging out with him after that. And so I was an okay mountain bike racer. I was a crappy road racer though. So yeah, that's my bike racing days as a kid. I never rode with anybody though. I rode with my brother though. Sometimes my brother didn't like riding with me because he just didn't like me generally back then. He thought I was like a nerd because I didn't have any friends. So he kind of wanted to like add to that. He just got really pissed off at me. But he did let me ride with him. We went mountain bike rides with him and stuff and his buddies. He had a lot of like bike racing buddies like who were really good, like Arian Wheeler, Dave Alongi, and JP Diaboim. They rode all the time and they're badass. Like Arian won the Ritzinger twice. Dave won stages. JP almost won a stage and was like getting fifth and stuff in the hill climbs. My brother won a few stages. He won the time trial at NCAR and Boulder Mall Criterium twice in the first stage of the '89 Ritzinger and the Criterium in Boulder. And I didn't do group rides either. I should have done group rides. It was fucked up. I only remember one group ride I did with my friends, with my brother and his friends. It was this woman's group ride. It was a girls' group ride, but it was a big one. There was like shitloads of girls there. I was actually talking to some girl at the beginning, and she's like, "Oh, you're a mountain biker? We call it maintenance biking because it's just a bit pain in the ass." I was like, "Yeah." So then we like dropped all those girls. I think we dropped all the girls because next thing I know, it was like just us and off the front of them, and then Wyndham kind of dropped me, and I was second, and then there was Arian, and yeah, Wyndham was he was a better rider than me there for a couple of years. He could drop me. A better road rider, probably not a mountain biker. But he rode a lot more than I did though, so. Yeah. So that's the bike racing. Yeah, so then after 6th grade, Uni Hill, that's when we went into junior high school. And I guess after we ended junior high school, they turned it into middle school, which is 6th grade to 9th grade. But when we were there, and then high school would be 9th grade to 12th grade. But the way I did it is we went from 7th grade to 9th grade and then 10th grade to 12th grade. So 7th grade to 9th grade was baseline junior high. And that was like 2 blocks from where I lived, where my house was. So, which I thought was cool because I just got to like ride my bike or like walk. I'd like ride like a BMX bike to school. It was like really close. And so my friends there in 7th grade at the very beginning were due because he was my friend, the Korean kid. He was my friend from the year before in 6th grade. But then he started hanging out with this kid named Mike Winger. And he was this blonde-haired kid, and he was like his best friend. And I was like, I don't know, man, if I want to hang out with you guys because I'm not going to like be your buddy if I'm going to be like the second buddy to like that other kid or whatever. So I was like, I stopped hanging out with him. But I started hanging out with him again in like 9th grade. But 7th grade, I didn't hang out with anybody because at lunchtime, which is the time where you hang out with your friends, I just went home. I had an off-campus pass and I just went home and had lunch there. But then my parents like got pissed off at me for doing that. So they like started telling me that I wasn't allowed to do that anymore. So I had to like start having lunch at school. But I didn't want to hang out with anybody. I was like really like, I don't know what it was, but I started getting really paranoid. And I just didn't want to, I didn't want to try and, I wasn't in any group. Like they had already formed all the different cliques and I hadn't joined myself into a clique by then. So it was I felt like it was too late. So I didn't have any friends. So I just like hung out at lunch all by myself in the hallway. And I remember some girls, I think there were like girls from like 8th grade or something, were like, "Are you new?" I was like, "No." You're like, "Oh, well, because you're alone." I was like, "Yeah." Damn parents won't let me have lunch at their house. But yeah, I didn't really like junior high. Junior high wasn't fun for me because you just, I don't know, I didn't like the setup. You'd have all these different classes. It's like 7 different classes throughout the day, and it's different subjects, and so you go in there, and then the teacher like is telling you about something, but they tell you about it as if you're retarded. Like I felt like they were talking to us as if we were retarded. I mean, we had this guy named Mr. Tidwell teaching geography, and it would take us like 5 days to get through like 2 pages. Like we'd spend like 2 days on stalactites and stalagmites, you know? And he's like, "Does anybody know what stalactite or stalagmite is?" And it's like, "Yes." You know, it was just like fucking boring, man. Like, he was like this hillbilly dude, and yeah, they just went by so fast that I was just like, I think that's about when I started having trouble staying awake. Like they were like hypnotizing me. Like I would be like yawning and like almost. I remember like my head would go into free fall, and this happened all the way through college. And I think it started back then, but it'd go all the way through college where your head goes into free fall, and then you catch it when you're like this far. And I always have this like fear that I would like bang my head against the desk, or like bang my head against the floor, and like injure myself. And oh yeah, and then the eyes. You can't keep your eyes open. Like you feel totally fucking awake. You feel great. You go into school, and this happened in college too. This happened all the way through the end of college. You feel totally great, and then you go into class, 10 minutes into class, you're doing this. Like you have to focus all of your energy just to keep your eyes open. Like there's this energy that comes in that just knocks you out. It's like taking 10 sleeping pills. And in college, I actually resorted to drinking like 5 coffees before every class, just so I wouldn't have to deal with that. Because you can't pay attention to what the teacher's saying if you're focusing on trying to keep your eyes open and your head from falling. I mean, you're passing out. But yeah, but I didn't have, so by the time school got out, I was like dazed and exhausted. And dehydrated, maybe because I guess I forgot to drink water because I remember feeling really ill physically, like dehydrated and hungry and tired. So I just go home and like have a big bowl of cereal and like just be like totally bonked, like low blood sugar. And I think I had to get like diagnosed with like Epstein-Barr at one point. Well, this was back in 11th grade. This is in 1990 where I got diagnosed with that. But I was just like tired, man. And so that's why I didn't really bike ride as much as I wanted to. You know, every year I was like, I'm going to ride so much this year, and I never did. School would get out and I'd just be like, and yeah. So then we had this other teacher named Mrs. something or other. What was her name? Mrs. Robertson or Robinson? She's this like really old lady. She's like 65 or something. And she was like senile. I think kids were bragging about how they would drop like extra sugar tablets or like something in her coffee, and she wouldn't even notice. And she was our like language arts teacher, and she'd just teach us like punctuation and stuff, and you're just supposed to, I hated school because you're just supposed to like sit there and watch the teacher like draw on the board, you know, and then you're like supposed to sit there and then like do the thing on your paper. And it's like, it made me want to rebel against school. So I didn't want to do any of the homework. And I remember looking at some of the other kids, like especially girls, and their papers would be fucking like folded perfectly. And I remember being like,